Hello, everybody. I'm still red. I'm very, very excited because this whole concept of national divorce is escalating very quickly, very quickly. And I'm really stoked at how fast this conversation is becoming mainstreamed. So I wanted to discuss that a little bit, since a lot of you seem to enjoy my last video with David French dissecting his piece. I'm going to start doing these on the fly a little bit more regularly because it seems like my power levels are getting more and more difficult to hide. So it'll be interesting to see how people react to the ideas that I put out there in the zeitgeist. I just want to catch up with some cool things I recently got in the mail. Excuse me. Happy Columbus Day, everybody. First, Mike. Okay, hold on a second. Dave's new part of the problem just went live on Gas. He was talking about the situation with his son. So glad to hear he's doing well. Send our love. I said I couldn't talk about that, but I knew about it. So yeah. Okay, a couple of things. First, I wanted to thank Mike. I guess this is the Mike everyone always tweets at me about. He sent me this in the mail because he heard me talking with Mulbug, Curtis, on Your Welcome about Dr. Seuss doing all this stuff vis-a-vis Hitler. So I thought that was really cool. Thank you. For those of you who want to send me letter bombs and other things like that, my P.O. box is at michaelmalice.com/contribute. Don't send me crap if you want me to send it back. That happened at Gas Digital. It's not happening because it's a big pain in the ass because I'm not even close to a mailbox, and I don't know how to drive yet. So that is the situation there. Two other really cool things. So one of the things I'm going to be discussing in the White Pill, which is going really, really well, is in the mid 30s, when Ayn Rand was shopping around her first novel, We the Living. I guess Anthem could be considered a novel. One of the people who was a book advisor at, I forget what house it was Granville Hicks. And he was a member of the Communist Party. He was high up. He was an editor, I believe, or writer for New Masses, which people don't even realize this, but back then there was a popular communist periodical called New Masses. And he told the editor who he was answering to that the writer does not understand socialism. I got his autobiography in the hopes of, I think he actually never ended up stepping foot in Russia, but was perfectly content to tell people that they didn't understand it. But the cool thing about this is one of the copies from his library. So I thought that was really cool. And it was not expensive. There's not big Granville Hicks fans out there. And the other really, really cool thing that I got in the mail was, as I mentioned in the New Right, both Curtis Yarvin and I independently were asked, what's the one book you think everyone should read? And we both said the same thing, which was The Machiavellians by James Burnham, which had been impossible to find, but now thanks to us, it's actually been reprinted. So this is a hardcover, which is really, really hard to find. Here's the thing. If you're a book collector, former library books are much less desirable. And if people get library copies of Ego and Hubris, I won't sign them because it's just anathema as a book collector. But this is, this copy doesn't have, it's an ex-library, doesn't have the stamps, doesn't have the thing in the back that marks it, but it's ex-library from, you can't really see, can you? From the, well, I'll read it for you. It's from the Brooklyn Public Library. So the fact that this was Brooklyn's copy was really cool, so I had to get it with Spite Fund money. It was not cheap, but it'll be on my shelf till the day I die. Thanks for all that you do. You inspired me to explain anarchism to my friends. Also, Hellraiser is the greatest movie of all time. Let's be honest, you don't have friends. None of us do, or else we wouldn't be here. Come on, let's be serious. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Rich Lowry and this National Review piece, which I have not read. one thing that I want people to appreciate, no matter what you think about what didn't you like about the managerial revolution, none of the predictions came out to be accurate, and it was just really, really weak as an analysis. No matter where you stand in politics, whatever, Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative, anarchist, communist, whatever, Reason Magazine is CNN for libertarians. Yeah, it is. Thanks, Charlie. When was the last time you heard any new idea come out of either National Review or conservatism? I sat here before this live stream and tried to think of one. I couldn't think of any. Here are some new conservative ideas. Term limits, that was an idea in the 90s. Sunsetting the tax code was a 90s idea. That was a new idea. What became Obamacare came out of the Heritage Foundation. That was a new idea, a mandate for healthcare. I can't think of, now there's a lot of non-conservative, like Trump had some ideas, good or bad, whatever, they're new. The Texas abortion bill, no one thought of anything like that before, that's new. But out of conservatism, like National Review conservatism, what is the last new idea, good or bad, that you've heard come out of that space? I can't think of any, even being generously. Let's go through this. Ever seen the movie Search and Destroy? I have not. I'm not a movie person. I have no friends. Well, we know that. We know that. That's why you're in locals. Amanda Knox interview possible. I don't. Do I know who that is? Am I showing my? Isn't she dead? Oh, this girl. Of course I know who that is. Yeah. Okay. I don't know. That's not on the agenda. So there's been I can't think of any ideas that have come out of that space. And the other thing I want people to appreciate is conservatives have no working theory of where ideas enter popular discourse. They think they just spontaneously erupt. For example, defund the police. I don't know where that came from. It came from the left. But there had to be some leftist academic or influencer or someone who first came up with this analysis, and then it became promulgated through the culture. But they don't think in these terms. These ideas just spontaneously develop. So when I point out that, I was the first, but there's plenty of other people who have started reigniting the talk about national divorce, there's a lot of them who laugh because in their worldview, these ideas just grow from the earth. Like the idea that someone thought of it or was the first one, that's not how they look at things. Here's another good example. They'll talk about how the universities have been seized by the leftists. When did this happen? Perfect. You're making a claim. And who did it? Who were the actors who seized the universities, and when and how did they do it? Let's reverse engineer it, right? They don't have any answers to questions that things used to be better, now they're bad. Okay, how did they get bad? What was the mechanism? Let's study those techniques. They don't think like that. It's just things were bad, we need to go back, or we need to change them. Well, how did they get changed to begin with? So it's a very weak philosophy in terms of strategy and analysis. They don't have any. They just it's always a reaction to whatever the left is putting forth at a new time. So again, if you read National Review is, okay, the Trump stuff's bad, and whatever AOC is saying is bad, what's the alternative? Spend less money. Great. So let me read this piece. Let me just talk about Rich. I like Rich. I did a few panels with him back in the day. Affable guy, friendly guy. He probably doesn't remember me. Doesn't matter one way or another. I don't know who National Review's audience is at this point. It's probably people who are a bit older and have a bit of nostalgia for the Buckley days when Buckley was the witty, edgy guy on the right who was tweaking the noses of the left. But in terms of influence, where are they influencing people toward? Toward what? Toward what ideas? The current airline situation reminds me of the frozen trains and Atlas Shrugged. I don't really see that. Okay, I'm going to get to this article, and then we could do some super chats later. So I'm just going to put these up. How do you think Rand would have reacted? She would have hated him And national divorce, who gets custody over the mentally ill challenged children, aka the Dakotas? Probably Boston. Why does the left hate a piece for national divorce? Is because the misery left company. Maybe they should about child raiser. They're mixed, but it's not just the left. It's when a progressive party disbanded, took over both parties of the 20th century, the conservatives became controlled opposition. If you read the New Right, in the late 1800s, they were already complaining about conservatism. Like there's a big quote. I think the guy's name's Robert Dabney. I don't remember his name. I found your work after Jordan Peterson really changed my outlook at everything. Can't thank you enough, and apologize for becoming cynical. Don't apologize to me. Apologize to yourself. Isn't it better not to be? Talking about an article without having read it. Curious and curious. Speedy read it live. I'm going to right now. So here we go. Here is the piece. Okay, let me get the piece open. National Review. Okay, so the headline is National Divorce is a poisonously stupid idea. Okay, that's a bold statement. It's interesting that he says stupid, not wrong. That's a very lefty thing to do, where the people who are opposed to you are dumb. Because leftists want to be smart, broadly speaking, and people on the right want to be good, broadly speaking, but there's a mix of both. Or rather, they think their opponents are. You know what? That's fallen away since Trump. I was going to say they think they're both dumb and stupid, and the opposite's true. So I just take back what I said. Okay. He says quitting on America should be unforgivable. But here's the thing: like, if you're divorcing from someone, what value is their forgiveness? You know, like, let's suppose you cheat on your wife or they cheat on you. I'll never forgive you for this. Cool. I won't be in your house. We don't have to talk anymore. I get why you're angry, but I'm going to take my crap and go. That's cool. And more power to you. Divorce usually isn't a good idea. That's the first line. First word. That's insane. Divorce usually isn't a good idea. Divorce is a good idea when it's a bad marriage, or not just bad, but unfixable. And it's a bad idea especially when there's kids, and you can make it better. And that's especially true of a nearly 250-year-old continental nation. Well, that's nothing to do with anything. First of all, America wasn't continental for quite some time. Number two is, who cares? I mean, like, really, who cares? Like, it's 250 years old, but you're going to throw it. Well, we've been around for a long time. You should still do it. Why? Why? Especially a cadre of apocalyptic writers on the right. See, that's the thing. This is what I'm very excited about. So, National Review is part of the Cathedral. And when they had their druthers under William F. Buckley, who's the villain of the new right, they basically can say no one to the right of us has legitimacy. And the corporate press allowed them to do this, and this was a mutual beneficial thing for both of them. And how that worked wasn't arguing against views to their right, but pretending they don't exist. Corporate America does this well. Like, for a long time, you couldn't show people using drug use recreationally in corporate television. It just didn't happen. If someone was using drugs, they had to be portrayed as a drug addict or a drug dealer or a bad person. You couldn't show someone. That changed, but that's one example. They just pretend that this doesn't happen or doesn't exist. And so the same thing is with politics. It's like if they had the druthers, people who are non-conservatives who are somehow on the right, we could just ignore them. They can't do that now because of social media. So now they have to acknowledge the ideas, but not acknowledge the people. It's a really funny situation. Or maybe he doesn't even know where it's coming from because he's out of touch with that whole segment of social media. I don't know. A cadre of apocalyptic writers on the right who believe the country is too far gone to save have become obsessed. Why obsessed? Have become obsessed. So he's apocalyptic, obsessed. See, notice he's using emotional language here. With a secession 2.0 that would cleave red America from blue, what does he link to? Oh, he links to Ben Domenech. Okay. Ben Damage, who's a good buddy of mine, he came out for national divorce, and allow the former to escape the ever-rising tide of woke insanity. There is no doubt the country is deeply riven along cultural, political, and religious lines, yet a national divorce has nothing to recommend it. Let's just go, yeah. Let me just go back to this. So he says, secession 2.0 would allow the former to escape the rising tide of woke insanity. And then the next paragraph he says, a national divorce has nothing to recommend it. You just said one thing to recommend it. Now, you could still say it's a bad idea. You should still say it's a disaster. This is a big price to pay, baby bathwater. One sentence he goes, it would allow the former to escape the rising tide of woke insanity. And then he says, a divorce has nothing to recommend it. It just, in two sentences, he completely contradicts himself. The practical obstacles are insuperable. Okay, here we go. This is what I love. So I think it was from Scott Adams that I learned about persuasion. I know if I learned in this specific context. He's really great on this. There's a big, if you are selling a car to someone and they start saying, I don't like this color, you've conquered a major hurdle. And that hurdle is the sale. So they're already haggling over this or that, but the biggest issue is I want to buy a car. So it's one thing to say divorce is terrible. It's something to say, well, how would it work? See, now you're already thinking about it. Now you've already gone a big part of the way persuasive-wise. The likely effects would be very unwelcome to its proponent. Let that be my unwelcome. Okay. That's the other thing. It's like, don't leave, baby. You can't live without me. If an insufficient patriotism is one of the ills of contemporary America, who says this? The problem with we want national divorce because there's an insufficient patriotism? Then a national divorce would prescribe arsenic as a cure. If you have cancer, sometimes you take chemo. Chemo is not fun. Chemo is a toxin. But it's, yes, to quote the movie The Iron Lady about Margaret Thatcher, yes, the medicine is harsh, but the patient requires it in order to live. Okay, let's see this. Okay, great. It would burn down America to save America, or at least those parts of it considered salvageable. How would it burn down anything? If it's can you imagine, like, I'm getting divorced? Well, I'm going to burn down the house. How is that burning down anything? It makes no sense. It would, and America as it is now is not something that a lot of people like. I love this country, and that's why I hate the government. A disaggregated United States would be instantly less powerful. True. That's true. Indeed, Russia and China would be delighted. Oh, there we go. We have to stay in this loveless marriage because of Russia and China. Russia, China. Canada has 30 million people, or 35. Let me look this up exactly right here. The argument they always say is that it has a ton of natural. Canada has 38 million people. The argument is if America splits up, China is going to invade. We have 350 million. 175. Let's not even split. 200, 150. China's going to invade. Why hasn't China invaded Canada with 35 million? Oh, well, it doesn't care about Canada, it cares about America. Why couldn't both Americas team up to repel a Chinese invasion? The same way that we teamed up with Germany, Britain, whatever, to repel Kuwait halfway across the world. Why you think Canada is also going to sit still while China invades us? Maybe you will. Maybe you're a total boomer. Okay, we have to stay together because of Russia and China. It's for the kids. It's for the in-laws. Yeah, okay, fine, great. My screen's not going over. Here we go. Okay. Russia and China would be delighted and presumably believe that we deserve to experience the equivalent of the crack up of the Soviet Union or the Qing dynasty, respectively. But that's the thing. The Soviet Union broke up, And yet we're still hearing about Russia every 5 minutes. So if breaking up as a country leads you to be completely impotent, why are we still talking about this Russia 30 years after the Soviet Union broke up? The economic consequences could be severe. That's true. That's true. So unless you are completely materialistic, not in the sense of like a consumerist, but like driven entirely by economics, this is a question to ask people. Would you rather be wealthier and live surrounded by people who have contempt for you and don't share your values? Or would you rather be poorer, but be surrounded by people who share your culture? I don't think there's a wrong answer. I think both those choices are valid. But to claim that you're going to be poorer, so you got to stay, I don't think that's a legitimate answer at all. I think plenty of people would rather take the money, but be happier and have more autonomy. The United States of America is a continent-wide free trade zone. So is he for the EU? Is he for the European Union? He doesn't see any problems with going on over there? The United States of America is a continent-wide free trade zone, creating a vast domestic market that makes us all better off. Exchanging that for a market balkanized by state or region would be a major loss. Why couldn't there be free trade between the two Americas like there's free trade between America and Canada? Why? Why does it immediately have to be huge tariffs? Okay, and things are going to be more expensive. Things aren't getting more expensive now with this huge spending and inflation. That's the thing. Like he's saying the alternative would be bad, but pretending that the status quo isn't. It's a complete bait and switch. Finally, this is his entire argument. Holy crap, this article's like 5 paragraphs long. Finally, the United States foundering on its domestic divisions would be a significant blow to the prestige of liberal democracy. I'm okay with it. Liberal democracy is also based on people sharing a common worldview. That's the basis of it, and discussing over particulars. So if there's 2 liberal democracies, okay. Abraham Lincoln worried about this effect the first time around, and it might be even worse now, with a long, stable republic unable to survive internal dissension. Wait. If there's countries split up into 2, let us suppose 5, but 2, wouldn't it be less dissent if both parties now have like a Venn diagram separate out to people who share worldview? What is he talking about? Then there's the question of how this is supposed to work. Lincoln warned, now we're just getting past into particulars. Lincoln warned of the physical impossibility of secession when the Mason-Dixon line was a more or less ready line demarcation. How would it play out with conservative, progressive, amply represented in every state in the Union? We can worry about that later. No divorce is easy. No separation is easy. Brexit is a great example of this. So for a long time, I think I said this on the last stream, Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, they had a lot of problems. And part of the end of the Troubles, which was a lot of terrorism or self-defense, however you want to call it, from the Republic of Ireland toward Northern Ireland, the UK, was having this border between the two. And this was the issue with Brexit. If we leave the EU and the Republic of Ireland is favorable to the EU, are you going to introduce a border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland? And how do you not if they're part of separate economic zones? And they basically figured out a way not to do it. So it's like, yeah, you can figure it out. And so the fact that he's asking this as a rhetorical question, it's like, well, maybe you could change who gets to vote. Maybe why does voting also doesn't have to be based on population? You could have it very easily where there's a parliament and the representation is based on geography. So Austin would get 1 seat and this other huge area would get like 100 seats. Doesn't have to be based on population at all. So that's I can't believe this is the article. He says it's stupid, poisonously stupid, and he doesn't give any reasons why. Here are the reasons why. It would break up America. Yeah, no shit. That's the point. It would make America less powerful. Listen, if you get rid of cancer, it's going to be hard in the short term, better in the long. And it would be a blow to the prestige of liberal democracy. Yeah, that's good. Let it die in its crib. The end. Okay. I will take some questions. I'm sorry there's not more here. I can't believe this is the extent of their argumentation. I drew a map with 7 areas: Northeast Appalachia, the South, Horde Lands, Lakes, Texas, and left coast. Yeah, there's many ways to do this. I love it now that they're just arguing over particulars instead of the idea. So this is a really great thing. I heard someone once said that the Bolsheviks had to overthrow the government because otherwise the Tsar was just going to take away the power anyway. I don't think that that's accurate at all. But okay, what's this? I've been working with developments in crypto. They're building borderless nation. Yeah, through decentralized organizations with their own culture and economy. It's anarchy in practice, successful, peaceful. Amen, Amanda. Want to thank you for what you do. I quit smoking and Fume has greatly helped with that. I'll start going to the gym and eating better because of you. When I talk about that product, I am happy to support it. And I'm glad they came over with me to Podcast One. So it's a great product. Did I miss any? Who will ghostwrite your autobiography? Well, Harvey Picard did that, remember? We had that already. My girlfriend loves your shirt. I was almost held at gunpoint to send this chat. Okay. Well, I got this cheap. I sleep in this shirt. This is a cheap shirt I got at Target. Do you recommend any books by Chomsky? No, I read Manufacturing Consent and I did not like it at all. Okay, so that's just my 2 cents on this piece. It's very short and in my view not persuasive at all. And it's very. This is the thing. This is what, reading between the lines. He's pissed that he has to acknowledge this. He wants this off his desk, and he's like, "Oh, I'm not even going to bother considering this." But it's like you're not in charge of the conversation. You haven't been for a long time, and you still haven't gotten that wrapped around your head. And I don't know that they'll ever get that at all. The elites want the U.S. to crash and separate. The U.S. government already has a council of governors who would rule over new Hunger Games-style districts. The idea of divorce could be falling to their plans. Yeah, the idea that we should do the opposite of what the bad guys do is the basis of conservatism. Conservatives don't have any ideas. The entirety of their idea is, well, whatever the leftists or the liberals do, we should do the opposite. And it's really embarrassingly thin and dumb. So I don't think, and that lets them control the conversation. It's been going on for a very long time. It's looking at right now, like Biden's like, we should have a $3.5 trillion bill. And they're like, let's make it 1.5 trillion. You got him by the short hairs, guys. Really great stuff. Wouldn't secession logically yield 2 separate nations with 2 distinct foreign policies too? Of course. I mean, it's impossible to be otherwise. I don't really follow what you're asking there. In the case of divorce, do you support reservations becoming true sovereign nations? Sure, I don't care. It's not a divorce, it's a Texas, New Hampshire, California, etc. independent movement. Yeah. A lot of these people who are saying this can never happen, it's more likely, if you go back to 2015, remember how young we were then? And you said, which of these 2 things is more likely? Trump becomes elected president or Texas declares secession. Every single person would say Texas. Everyone. It's not even a question. The nukes wouldn't disappear, neither would NATO. Any invasion would be suicide for the invader. Yeah. That's the other thing. People are like, what would happen to the nukes? What would happen to the nukes of the Soviet Union? Like, they'd all be detonated immediately. Like, are you serious? That's like one of the easiest questions. What happens to the arsenal when a couple gets divorced? They start shooting everybody in the sidewalk? Do you ever think Tim has autism? You have been close to him. No, I really don't. What are your thoughts on libertarian organizations on college campuses? Are they a waste of time? Or can they be useful? I'm an old man. I would certainly say they can be very useful in terms of socializing, in terms of not feeling alone. I think they could be very useful in terms of getting speakers, and that's kind of exciting. I remember I was excited when people brought speakers on campus. And also they're excited to get book ideas, but they've kind of lessened in importance now that the internet's around, because back then you couldn't find people who shared your political views, and now thanks to the internet, it's not that hard at all. Divorce won't work because leftists will refuse to move to red states and will work to destroy red states as these currently do. Cool. It'll be delightful if a national divorce was a consequence of Nathaniel Branden insisting Murray Rothbard divorce his Christian wife. Yeah, see, Rothbard tells that story that Ayn Rand demanded that he get divorced, and that Rand had written a series of essays disproving the existence of God. Those essays don't exist, and she kept everything. So I'm really skeptical to hear his side of this story, because where were these? I mean, if Rand is writing about atheism, she's not throwing it on the garbage. This is going to be part of their library, and this would have been reprinted. So something doesn't add up to me in this situation. Michael, what good does a divorce do if the trends are likely to continue within these two separated nations? I don't think that's a given. I don't think it's even a given the trend's going to continue within this one nation. Why do you think there's all of a sudden, why do you think there is this all of a sudden world influence the World Economic Forum has over world governments and their Build Back Better agenda? I don't think there is this new influence. I think people are more aware and people are more fighting back, and that's forcing them to show their hands more. That's what I think is happening. Got into wet shaving, your recommendation. Love the journey of different soaps. No, even Insta, but could throw us an all-time top 10 on locals. No, just go to my Instagram.com/shaving soaps, and if you scroll back, you can see my like tops. A Barrister and Man grooming department are the two companies I like the most. Chiseled Face, Midnight Stag is my favorite, but scents are so idiosyncratic. So if you go through the ones, you'll be able to see them. How long would this take to draw national boundaries? Months. Do you think blue states will try to stop max exodus? Again, guys, this is what's really funny to me. The biggest issue is getting people to agree that this needs to happen. All these other things are totally up for debate. The hard pill is getting that person to buy the car. And thankfully, everyone is now thinking about how would this play out, as opposed to, well, this is even a non-starter. Thank you, John. Okay, I got this one already. Okay, I am going to... You really think the UN would be okay with a divorce in the USA? They wouldn't get involved. Yes, I think they will have no choice but to be okay. Absolutely. You didn't finish the article. What do you mean I didn't finish the article? Let me look. Oh, wait, there's this. Oh, God, there's this huge ad. I'm sorry. You're right. Thank you for pointing it out. Thank you for pointing it out. Really appreciate that. Let me finish this article. Wow. I really appreciate that, Steve. If there were to be sovereign pure red and blue places, this wouldn't look like the relatively neat split of the United States into two in the 1860s, but more like post-Peace of Westphalia Europe with hundreds of different entities. True. Some proponents of national divorce say not to worry, it can all be worked out amicably. But if we're going to split up because we can't even agree on bathroom policies or pronouns, how are we going to agree to divvy up our resources and territories? It would be a conversation. It would matter who gets control of the federal government, the most powerful organization on earth. It has 1.3 million people and a stockpile of nuclear warheads. Whether to cruise to red or blue America would, to understate it, be a matter of considerable haggling. But there's haggling going on now. Right now, there's an enormous amount of pressure, depending on who's in control of Washington, of dominating like half the country. Haggling is going to happen regardless. So that's irrelevant. On top of this, red state secession would be self-defeating. Let's say Texas left. That's 40 electoral votes. In 2020, with no Texas, Trump could have won. Pennsylvania, Michigan, Washington still falling short of majority. I think people would much rather be free. There's two options. Would you rather be in America as is now with Trump as president? Or would you rather have your own country of Texas and have no chance that Trump will be president? Both of those are fair options. There's plenty of people who say, you know what? Have a Democrat in Washington forever. We're going to live our own life. Or have a Republican in Washington forever. We're going to live our own life. Both of those are very valid positions. On the other hand, Texas isn't quite as ruby red as it used to be. It could secede and still find itself governed by the very Democrats it hope to leave behind. But that's the thing. That's what he's just saying, liberal democracy, blah, blah, blah. There are plenty of people who say, I'd rather be Texas' own country, even if the Democrats sometimes win. Besides, would the rest of the world really be willing to watch a state of 29 million people that represents the ninth largest economy in the world go its own way? What? Can you imagine Texas secedes? What like Russia's going to invade to keep Texas part of America? What is he talking about? Yeah, the rest of the world, if it's done peacefully, is going to acknowledge it. Absolutely. Meanwhile, red state secession might not actually stem the cultural tide. Would the college professors in those places be less woke? Well, they'd be deported. Would the newsrooms be more conservative? What newsrooms? Would people in the States stop using social media? No. The real impotence for the talk of a breakup is despair. It constitutes giving up on convincing our fellow Americans, giving up on our common national birthright, and giving up on our national project. Yeah, I'm fine with all that. This is an impulse to be resisted. Breaking up is hard to do, but not impossible. And quitting in America is or should be unforgivable. Okay, I don't need your forgiveness. I just need you to leave me alone. Wow, this okay, that really is nothing there. Conservative Inc. is 0 for 2 arguing against national divorce so far. The other thing is, like, all these things he brings up isn't anything that anyone who's thought of this hasn't been like, oh yeah, that's a good issue. Do you think the ubiquity of Let's Go Brandon chants in college stadiums is indicative of a cultural shift and therefore a significant white pill? No, I don't think it's indicative of a cultural shift. I think it's indicative of something that's been going on since at least 2014, where there's a large segment of the population, especially younger white males, who are happy just to have any opportunity to give the finger, and who are just feel unheard correctly in many cases, and are like, yeah, I'm not buying into your bullshit. Same with people with a lot of vaccine hesitancy. A lot of it's medical based, but a lot of it's like, I'm not still doing it out of principle. Go fuck yourself. Don't use this money yourself. You need a mess to help to stand alone. That is true. That is absolutely true. That's one of my favorite. That is one of my favorite quotes, song lyrics. The writer asserts that breaking up the United States would delegitimize liberal democracy. Has an American intervention done enough to delegitimize democracy? Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone who is, and he's using, obviously he's using liberal in the old school sense, but I don't think anyone who's arguing for national divorce really regards liberal democracy as one of their top values. I do not regard it as a value at all. Hey, Michael, you look so very handsome today. Well, that's a lie. So the arguments are nukes, Russia, China, it would be hard, fair, and don't give up on America. I don't think any of those are particularly persuasive, in my opinion. Rest of the world would probably see states seceding as new trade opportunities unburdened by current U.S. laws. Absolutely. Absolutely. Saw Joshua Smith got his, oh, that's cool. Here's for a soda or ice cream. Thank you. That's very nice. I'm glad I could help with that. He seems like a good dude. What do you think the geographic breakup looks like? I don't care. I don't care. I think 5 makes more sense than 2, but it's a lot easier for people to wrap their head around 2. So that's why I always say 2. He's right, Michael. A husband and wife who argue all the time would never agree to get divorced. Yeah. Hey, Michael, do your books ship via USPS when you order them off of Amazon? I don't know, but what I do know is you can get some, look up Reshipper. What Reshippers do is you can order to a US address overseas, and it's a slightly bigger fee. I don't know. They are supposed to give me an answer of why it's not published there, and they haven't been able to figure it out. So I'm very sorry to hear that. Okay, so this is just curious. Have your views on Alexander Hamilton changed at all since your debate on Tom Woods? Do you want to see something cool? You want to see something really cool? This is a letter that has been signed by Alexander Hamilton. It's not written by him. It's written by his secretary, but he signed it on the back. I'm getting a nice frame for it, and it's going to have a place of beauty in my home. Have my views on him changed? No. Not in the slightest. Well, I would say not in the slightest. If anything, I admire him even more. How are you holding up in Austin? I'm doing very, very well, and I appreciate the question. Colin Quinn, perfect. That's wonderful in his Netflix special. Colin Quinn is a real talent. I think he's great. Okay, I am going to bounce. I will See you soon. I just want to do this off the cuff. And did you see the debate between Scott Horton and Bill Kristen? Crystal, that was stupid of me. No, I haven't. I did not see the debate, and no, I'm not going to have Scott on my show. Where would the world be without big countries fighting or at war? Is there a cost benefit we don't see currently? Yeah, exactly. Right. I don't know if you've asked this before, but can we get the hardcover? The hardcover is going to be at malice.locals.com. It's probably going to come out at Christmas time. We're wrapping it up today. We had to redesign the whole thing from scratch because they use InDesign instead of PDFs. Every time, hold on a second. There's Frank. Thank you, Frank. Every time someone tells me the masks, vax BS will end, I ask them if I still take my shoes off at the airport. Yeah, great point. Great point. Okay, I'm going to head out. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I will talk to you all soon. And this week on what will happen to all the federal buildings and employees, I'm sure we'd find, I can't even say. Take my moolah. Thanks. Thank you, Sean. I will talk to you soon. This week on You're Welcome, we have Jesse Lee Peterson. It was a very, very, very interesting episode, to say the least. I'm sure there's going to be another conservative with a lightweight article against national divorce. And here's the other thing. Here's the other way we change the conversation. I don't know who came up with this term, but instead of referring to it as secession, they're referring to it as national divorce. I got it from Lauren Chen. They're all saying national divorce. They're not saying secession, because secession has very negative connotations, and fairly so. So this is why I'm telling you we're going to win. Talk soon, guys.